Some disappearances are remembered because they begin in chaos. This one begins in quiet. A child asleep in her bedroom, a family home in Shelby, North Carolina, a February morning before sunrise. And then, by the time her mother went to wake her for school, 9-year-old Asha Jaquilla Degree was gone. There was no confirmed break-in, no public evidence of a struggle inside the home, no simple explanation that made sense then, or now. More than 2 decades later, Asha's case remains one of the most haunting missing child investigations in the United States. Not because of what we know, but because of how little the known facts explain. This is the disappearance of Asha Degree. Asha lived in Cleveland County, North Carolina, with her parents and her older brother. On February 14, 2000, her family last saw her asleep in her bedroom at approximately 2:30 in the morning. By around 6:30 a.m., when her parents reported her missing, Asha was no longer in the house. That window between 2:30 and 6:30 is the opening that has never closed. Official records say that at about 4 a.m., motorists saw a young girl walking along North Carolina Highway 18 in Shelby. Investigators later connected those reports to Asha. That detail changed the case immediately. If the sightings were accurate, then Asha did not simply vanish from her room. She left the house and was seen walking along a highway in the dark, before dawn, away from the safety of home. But that fact leads to the question that has followed this case for years: why? Why would a 9-year-old child leave home in the middle of the night? There is no established answer. There has been no public evidence of a planned runaway attempt, no confirmed note, no confirmed adult waiting for her, no proven explanation for what drew her out of the house. And because that question has no answer, the case has attracted theories, but theories are not evidence. Asha was last seen by her family asleep around 2:30 a.m. Around 4 a.m., motorists reported seeing a young girl walking on Highway 18. By 6:30 a.m., Asha's parents had reported her missing. In the earliest stage of the investigation, authorities found no signs of forced entry at the home. Search dogs did not produce a promising scent trail. Asha was not found in the neighborhood, with relatives, or along the immediate route. The search grew. Law enforcement volunteers and the community looked for a child whose disappearance seemed to defy the usual assumptions. Asha was 9. She was described in official records as small for her age, about 4 feet 6 inches tall and approximately 60 pounds at the time she vanished. The North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation says she was believed to have been wearing a white shirt, white jeans, white tennis shoes, and perhaps carrying a black Tweety Bird purse and a black backpack. That uncertainty matters. In this case, even clothing and belongings have to be handled with care. There were searches near the highway. Some items found during the early investigation were reported in later accounts, but not every item has the same evidentiary weight in the public record. The most important confirmed discovery came later. On August 3, 2001, more than a year after Asha disappeared, construction workers found a book bag in Burke County, about 30 miles north of the last reported sighting. The FBI says that book bag belonged to Asha. Inside were items that raised new questions: a New Kids on the Block concert t-shirt and a copy of McElligot's Pool by Dr. Seuss. The FBI says neither item belonged to Asha, though the book came from the library at her school, Falston Elementary. That discovery changed the emotional shape of the case. A backpack buried miles away from where a child was last seen does not explain what happened, but it strongly suggests that someone knew more than they had said. Investigators did not release every detail about the bag or its condition. That is common in open investigations. Some information is held back to test tips, protect evidence, and distinguish real knowledge from rumor. But the public was given enough to understand this. The backpack was not just a lost item, it was a clue. Years passed. Asha's family kept her name visible. Law enforcement agencies continued to revisit the case. The FBI, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation worked together on renewed efforts, including public appeals, age-progressed images, and requests for information. In 2016, investigators released another possible lead. They asked the public for information about a dark green early 1970s Lincoln Mark fire, or possibly a Ford Thunderbird, with rust around the wheel wells. According to the FBI, someone matching Asha's description may have been seen getting into a vehicle like that along Highway 18. But that lead is not the same as proof. It does not establish who was driving. It does not establish that Asha got into the car. It does not establish whether the car was connected to her disappearance. It remains a possible lead, and one that investigators considered important enough to publicize. Then, many years later, the case moved again. In 2024 and 2025, search warrant reporting revealed that investigators had begun focusing on a possible homicide theory. Warrant documents reportedly stated that authorities believed Asha had been killed and her body concealed. The same reporting described DNA evidence connected to items from her backpack and named members of a local family in connection with the investigation. But this part of the story must be told carefully. Search warrants are not convictions. Investigative theories are not courtroom findings. No trial has established what happened to Asha Degree. No person has been convicted of causing her disappearance. The later warrant details are important. They may show that investigators believe they are closer to understanding what happened, but they do not give us permission to turn suspicion into certainty. And certainty is exactly what this case refuses to give. There is no confirmed final location for Asha after the highway sightings. There is no known public evidence explaining why she left home. There is no proven account of who, if anyone, met her. There is no body, no confession accepted in court, no completed trial, and no final legal answer. That is why Asha's case remains so difficult. It is not a puzzle with a missing corner. It is a life interrupted at the point where a child should have been safest. The human impact is easy to lose beneath the timeline. 230, 400, 630, a backpack, a road, a possible car, a reward. But at the center is a little girl who should have gone to school that morning, a family that woke up into a reality they could never undo. A community that still measures time from that Valentine's Day in 2000, and a question that has only grown heavier. What made Asha leave? Not what people online imagine, not what later theories insist. What actually happened? Until that is answered, the case remains open.